Good afternoon. This is the 11th edition of the Tiny Lab Talks. Today we are talking. Today we are talking about how to bring research results into the market. So Tiny Lab Talks are brief and informal conversations with experts from abroad, from the United States, and also from researchers from the university. So the topic today is entrepreneurship, and we will have Frank Rimalovski from the University from New York University Entrepreneurship Institute. And he's the executive director there, and he's also the managing director of the Innovation Venture Fund that is responsible for providing seed capital for startups funded and based on the technologies developed by students, academia, and researchers. He holds MBA in Marketing and Management. Also, we have from the University of Aveiro, Márcia Neves, that has a PhD in chemistry, and she works in CISECO, the Institute from Materials from the University of Aveiro. She has since 2017 participated in entrepreneurship programs like COITEC with the business idea from RIA Purification Technologies. In 2018, this idea that the long name is Avian Antibody for an Advanced Treatment of Bacterial Infections facing the problem of antimicrobial resistance. It's tough, sorry. But they won a national competition, the Born from Knowledge Ideas Award from our National Agency for Innovation. And so last year they are trying to create their own company called RIA Purification Technologies. And so, almost there, right?
Yes, we hope.
So I am Marta Marques, I'm head of UACOOPERA, who's the structure responsible for intermediating the university activities with the exterior, being entrepreneurship or other types of technological transfer activities. And so I'll start this tiny talk with a couple of questions. Let's start with Frank.
Okay.
So can you tell us a little bit about the work you do in New York University, perhaps focusing a little bit on Leslie E-Lab?
Sure. So as Marta said, I run the Entrepreneurial Institute. It is an organization that is in the central function of the university. NYU has 20 different schools and colleges, and we work with students and faculty and researchers from all of them to help them learn how to start startups. So everyone who comes to work with us is choosing to. We do not teach classes or do anything for credit, but we do offer extensive workshops, coaching, acceleration programs, and then we also, as you mentioned, run the Innovation Venture Fund, which invests in startups founded by our students and faculty. The Leslie E-Lab is our home. We have a 7,000 square foot space. Don't ask me how many meters that is. But where any NYU student or faculty can come, they can take advantage of the co-working space. There's also collaborative workspaces within that, with video conferencing facilities and a prototyping lab, and then it's also the home for our team and all the programs and accelerators we run out of the Leslie E-Lab, and it's located right in the middle of campus.
So, but why do people go to the E-Lab?
Generically, one of two reasons. Either they're curious about startups and they want to learn about them. And so we offer a lot of workshops. You know, as I like to say, we'll even teach people how to spell entrepreneur. If they don't know how to spell startup, we cannot help them. But then the other reason they come is because they actually have an idea or an invention that they want to commercialize and that they need help with. Many, funny enough, end up coming first looking for money, but we then tell them, money maybe later. Let's talk about your business. Who are your customers? What's the value that you can provide for them? And so
So how many persons go there?
Each year we
Each year.
see about 25 to 30,000 visits to the Leslie E Lab from 5 to 6,000 unique individuals. Many of them come for the space or for a workshop, but we work with in any given year somewhere between 400 and 500 teams.
So that's
A lot.
impressive.
It's
Yeah.
a lot.
Lots of work for you.
Lots of work for us, but it's fun.
Okay, Márcia, you are a researcher in university for some years.
Yes.
When did you and your team realize the potential impact of the scientific results that you were achieving?
Okay. So first I will start just to explain what is our technology or our product. So in 2014, Mara Freire, that is our team leader, was awarded with an European Research Council starting grant to develop purification technology for avian antibodies. Avian antibodies are antibodies that can be obtained from the egg yolk of eggs, and they are very similar to IgG, the most common antibodies that can be extracted from mammalian serum. Okay? So after 5 years of research, we went up with two purification platforms that allow us to produce, to purify these antibodies with a high purity level at a very low cost of production. Okay, so this is our value proposition. What is the need in this case? What is the need? So we are trying to focus these antibodies for the multi-resistance bacteria infection. So you asked me when did we found that we could start our startup, or when
Business
did we?
idea.
Yeah. So when we found these two technology that allow us to produce these antibodies and could face and fight a serious health problem, that is antimicrobial resistance, we thought, why not to start or to initiate a startup in order to produce these antibodies with this aim. Okay. So after that we patent these two technological platforms, and now we are in the long way of knowing what is our customers, how we will lead our product to the market, and so on.
But it is, how do the research team where you are included looks at you that are creating a business? So it is being a researcher, how is the process of being translating to a business person, leaving the academia behind?
Well, at this point it's one step in one side and the other in the other side. Okay, it's not easy because I'm not at full time promoting the startup, and I'm not full time as a researcher. But it's very nice to start this new field, because researchers are not used to talk with investors or with people that are different from us and that don't speak the same language. Okay, so it's nice, and even in the lab, everybody knows what we are doing, and they give us some support.
That's
Even in CSEC we have the support of the director, so it's very good.
It is very good.
Mhm. Yes, it is. So, University of Aveiro, you support the entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So anyhow, one of the aspects we were talking about was to raise money and to talk with funds.
Mhm.
And so, can you talk about the fund that you have in the university?
Sure.
How it is to, how can you make the decisions? What is the process?
So, I mean, generally the process often begins with someone coming to us looking for money, and as I mentioned earlier, it's often we need to help them and support them in thinking and training them on how to think about this as a business, right? Who is the customer, what is the value, and also helping them understand the stage at which professional investors are looking to invest. Right? Professional investors, venture capitalists, and even angel investors are not typically looking to fund a lot of scientific and technical risk. They're really, there are federal governments and foundations like to take on that risk more often than investors. So understanding really where they are in the continuum, and it's not always black and white. It's shades of gray, as they say. To help them understand where they are, and if they're here and they need to be here, how can we help them get there? And so we may work, for a project like this, where there's a lot of deep science involved. Sometimes they may come to us, years before they're actually ready to raise investment capital. But we work with them on helping them identify who is that initial customer, what is the value. What does it mean to go from creating something that works in a lab to creating a product or service? What are the resources that they need to tackle that? What are the sources of capital that might be available to fund that stage versus venture capital? So that's a bigger part of what we do from a time and investment standpoint than actually the making of the investments. When it comes time to make an investment, we invest alongside other investors. So if a startup needs €1 million or 2 million euros, we typically, we invest in dollars, but we typically invest 100,000, let's just call it euros. If they needed $1 million, then we would say, okay, or euros, we want to help you find that other 900,000. Okay? But the truth is, the entrepreneur, be they the researcher or whoever on the team who's leading the initiative, has to lead that fundraising, because no one is going to invest because we say we're willing to put up $100,000. They want to meet the team, they want to learn about the business, especially if they're going to be putting up the majority of that capital. They want to make their own assessment of the risk and the potential of that business. So we will make introductions, but they ultimately have to close the deal, and then we can invest when they raise the rest of the money. Okay, so I know you were curious to know, how do we say no? We often don't have to say no. We can say not yet, as I talked about earlier, and then we can say, okay, we're willing to commit 100,000 when you can raise the balance of it, because our $100,000 is probably not enough for a project like this to get it to a meaningful value creation point that it can attract the rest of the investors.
Okay, so we know that finding money is one of the issues, but Márcia, can you tell us what, in your case, was the main challenge in this process of transferring technology to the market?
So, I think that our project and our product is really, really good, because for two reasons. First, it was financed by a ERC starting grant, and now for a proof of concept from the same institution. So we believe, and we think that others believe in our idea, in our project. In our case, we didn't have so much that problem that you were referring. So we had the money for the research, and now we have the money for the proof of concept. But because it's a life science project, it's a long term until the product reaches the market. So we will have the money now for the proof of concept, but we would like to reach the preclinical. Okay, so no capital venture will will want to invest in us until we have some results concerning toxicology or results concerning the preclinical. So one of the fundamental issues is the funding. The other is related what we were talking about in your talk, about defining the product. Because we would like to be a startup that will have a product in 10 years, but now we would like to have a product on the market immediately. So we would like to have some return, okay? So we have to try to see what would be the product, the customer, and everything else.
So I'm going to take advantage of having you here to ask something that is useful for my work. So, Márcia, tell us what you think that universities should provide to entrepreneurs in order to facilitate your work.
Okay, I don't know if it happens for everybody or for every scientific group, but I think that when a patent is identified, perhaps it could be helpful for the team with that patent have meetings with mentors on that field that could orientate the persons to which pathway to follow.
Okay. Very good idea. And so, in the same line of reasoning, I will ask Frank, when you assist your entrepreneurs in creating their own startup, what do you think are the key points that we should provide? Because I know that here in university we give access to mentors, we also assist them ourselves, we assist in the patent process, we give some training. But for you, what would be the key aspect?
Well, I think all those things are key. Like there's no silver bullet. Like the truth is when I was brought to NYU initially to start the venture fund, and I realized very quickly that while the fund may have been necessary, it was not sufficient. It was not enough. And we needed the mentorship. We needed the support of technology transfer. We needed the training and the workshops and all that, because every journey is a little bit different. And while the needs are often the same of how do you think about this technology as a business, right? And understanding, who is your customer, the value you create, what is the pathway and the journey, they all have different needs depending upon the team, the technology, and the sector that they're facing. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of the right things. Bringing in people from the outside is good, but I would advise that they go through some kind of training or filter, because it's very easy to simply bring different people in and give someone 20 different opinions, and then to try to have them make sense of it might confuse them even more. Right? So we try to be very Socratic in our approach to mentorship and not tell the entrepreneurs what to do, but try to help them learn how to get the answers themselves so that they own it and they understand that what they're doing is unique, and because they have to make the decisions that are going to drive the success or failure of that business.
So just to wrap it up, I will ask you both, why is it so hard to turn a researcher into an entrepreneur?
It's hard, but it can be done if they embrace the fact that it's not just about their technology, but it's ultimately about creating a business that needs to satisfy the customer. So you got to get them in to buy into that kind of learning, training, and support.
So,
well,
Márcia.
I think the language is completely different. Because as researchers, we have a need for solving a problem or finding a solution, Okay, and for business, what matters is that if it gets money, so it's the end of everything. Okay, so you don't want to start a startup and close it 2 or 3 years from now because it doesn't work. Okay, so I think the language is different.
I think we finished our time. So thank you both.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Hope it was productive.
Thank you.
Please.